So you finished your rep grind and you're ready to retrieve additional smuggler intel. But how do you actually do this mission? Hi everyone, it's Master Ben, and today I'm going to be taking you through exactly what you need to do in this mission. It's a really fun one, it's fairly tricky in some places, but hopefully this walkthrough will be useful for everyone out there. The first thing you're going to need to do is kill all the Vanduul in the air and get your ship to the landing pad, and I'll meet you inside. So now that we are inside the facility, we need to go and turn off the security alarm. By doing so, we are able to get into the security room, which is where we will be depositing all of the decrypt data keys as we go along. So to do so, we're going to head up the stairs to the right-hand side of the warehouse, taking a right at the top of the stairs, and then following these all the way around to the right. So we're going to push all the way to the end of this corridor. See, there's quite a lot of fighters up here. And just to note as well, the NPCs now have substantially better guns, so they will also be using all the spicy LMGs, all the pulverizers. So look forward to that. Definitely bring enough med shell as you go along, and goo if you bring a large ship. As we push into this final room, in the first section, we will see a switch. Going to go ahead, press F, pull that switch down, and then an alarm will stop. And this also means you can now get into the main security room. So I'll speed up the footage here as we run back to that room. And it's important to note at this early stage that if at any point you fall into bugs where you can no longer get a key, you cannot bring keys to other events. So every time you kill an enemy and loot the body, it's this physical animation which will allow the next stage to progress. So coming into the security room now, as we down the last few enemies, we will be downing the person who's inside the security area. So, and once we get to this point, we're going to press F on their body, and this enables us to loot the data. And it's this animation which actually allows us to interact with the security board, which I'll show you in just a second. So picking up a keycard, we're now going to head over to the keycard terminal. So we'll press F on here. Now, this stage won't work if you haven't been able to get that data. So if the body's not there, which I'll show you later, this bit won't work. But afterwards, if you have the keycard, grab it from your backpack and put it into the machine. So we're going to be doing this 5 times from 5 different locations. So we have 4 to go. And if you look immediately to your right, 90 degrees right from your current location, you will also see a yellow comp board. Now, this comp board is incredibly important, and it's by far more important than the actual mission. This will enable you to get into the final loot room, which is where you will find very good components, such as the JS500, which you can put on your Perseus. There are a load of Vanduul cases in there as well. This is really why you do this mission. So even if this mission bugs out, you can still push through it as long as you can get to these terminals. So it'll take a few seconds. Go ahead and store this in your backpack. And this com board is now at 33%. So we're going to need to do this in 2 separate locations. Now, just to note, there is no wait time on those terminals, on those machines. So you can absolutely go ahead and get 3, 4 of those com boards and pick them up from other locations. Now, in this highlighted slot here, boom tubes will spawn. You need to check this every single time you come into this room, because the boom tubes can spawn multiple times during one playthrough. And now that we have dropped off this first decrypt card, it's time to move to cargo area 1. To do so, we'll leave security and turn to the right next to the giant blazing Vanduul drop pod. God, it looks awesome. Head all the way back to cargo deck A, and at the very end, we will find a wonderful lift shaft. Now, as ever, here's a warning to remind all your friends you're playing with, only put up to 4 people in a lift at one time. Once you get out that lift into cargo deck A, you're going to kill all the enemies here and turn to the right. There's a large room to the right. This is going to have even more enemies in. You need to kill all of these enemies, and you are looking for another person with a keycard on the top floor. What's really useful is once you've killed that person, they will then appear on the map so you know exactly where to go. So kill everyone in the room, and as you'll see, there's now a yellow marker guiding us upstairs. So we can just see that to our right hand side now. Make your way all the way up, try kill people through stairs. It's not very easy to do, as well. Maybe it's just a skill issue. And go up to the lovely gentleman here, and remember you always need to press F to download their data and then go into their lootables. So pick up the data keycard. We have now got 2 out of 3. Now you can do this in a few different ways here. You don't actually have to go deposit these crypt keycards every single time, but we wanted to do that tonight just in case if there's any bugs, we know exactly where we got to. There's plenty of loot throughout this whole event. Some of it's a lot better than others. Most of the good loot is at the very end, and I'll show you how to get all that later. One thing to do as you go along is look out for these red cases. Now, a lot of these red cases are black, which are unusable. However, if they have a Vanduul dead body inside, you can track to those and put them onto the cargo elevator, which you can see on screen now. Getting these crates is incredibly important as they are very, very valuable and can be sold at the Pyro jump point in Nyx. There's a separate mission which you'll need to accept to do this, but absolutely make sure you grab all of these. Now, a really important thing to note at this stage is all of these cargo elevators are shared over all of these locations. So you don't actually need to grab this gear and take it back to Levski every single time. You can pool it over all of these locations and then pick it up when you're ready in a much larger ship. Getting back into the lift we got here in, we are going to be going to cargo deck B. But before that, we have decided that we're going to drop off this data crypt keycard first. Once again, this bit is optional. You can do it after getting data card B. So once again, pushing back the exact same way we came in, just enjoying the graphics. And I must say, the lag in this area is really, really tricky. This footage has been sped up quite a bit in places, and you'll still see it's very, very choppy trying to get through. This process is exactly the same every single time. We press F to upload data from our mobiGlas. Once that is completed, we get the crypt keycard out of our backpack and put it into this machine. And while we wait for this keycard to be processed, this is a wonderful opportunity to ask you to do the YouTube pleasantries. If you wouldn't mind liking, commenting, subscribing to this video, I'd be very grateful. And also to point out that I now have a Ko-fi, which has a few different tiers on and different ways to support and a few different benefits. So if you consider doing that, I'd be very grateful as well. So now we're going to push into cargo deck Bravo. So this is where we will basically be doing the exact same thing as before. Once again, 4 people in a lift at one time. It's okay to be rude and tell people not to get in. There is one lift later on which you need to get everyone in at the same time, but I'll make this very clear when we get there. Once you're into cargo deck B, this person is going to be spawned on the lower floor, but we're still going to be pushing in. We're still going to be pushing to the right-hand side, and then we will see them just on the balcony direct front right now. Once again, these are the black Vanduul crates, which you can look out for. As you can see on the floor there's a few which we can definitely loot. Always make sure you run around these rooms and have a look, because there's definitely a lot of good lootables on the area. Now, some of these loot buttons for the downloading data can be pretty tricky. I found that stepping back a little bit can be much easier than getting too close, and then the hold F to loot button starts to disappear. And there we go, we now have our third key. Now, if you use a pulverizer, these missions are absolutely perfect for you, because you can pick up loads of ammunition all the way through, so it makes it really, really easy to not run out of ammunition the whole way. And obviously the pulverizer magazine is so large anyway, you've got plenty of space there. So here we go. We've got a further 4 crates from the Vanduuls. Hello, lovely people. I would have put some clothes on if I were you, but there you go. You're on camera now. Wonderful. Getting back into the lift. This is where we have done our final data card from this area. And after this one, we're going to be moving outside to another location. So if you didn't deposit cargo deck A's key, you need to do that now. Exact same process again, folks. Press F to use. Wait for a few seconds, grab the keycard into your hand, and then put it into the machine. CIG is nothing if not consistent when it comes to their game mechanics, and I must say it's quite nice to see this one working so far. I'm sure there are no bugs that are going to appear later on. Sometimes foreshadowing is fairly obvious. Okay, what do we do now? Right, well now we're going to go and find a dead-ish Polaris and get a keycard from there. So in order to get there, we need to exit the exact normal way we got in. So basically head back to your ship. As we move to our next location, this is a wonderful opportunity to discuss what ships you should be using for this event. I would personally recommend any of the larger variants in the game. We're looking at your Idris, Perseus, Polaris. An 890 would be kind of funny, but I promise you it will struggle. Basically, you want a nice big ship with some decent shields that can also pack a punch. The Vanduul fighters that are in the area are very, very potent, so I'd certainly recommend you bring something with a med bed in case any of you guys die, and also some solid shields. If you're taking solo ships, I suspect you will struggle with this. Just make sure you're very, very good in the air so you can deal with the Vanduul ships before you move in. So jump into your chosen ship, literally drive about 50 meters, and you will see a Polaris. And we are going to go and board this. Now, you can get to this without using a ship. However, you have to EVA quite far. It's not worth it, just moving a ship. Once you're in the Polaris, it's fairly locked down, so it's pretty much a long corridor. We're going to be pushing all the way to the back of the hangar. And as you can see here, doors have been locked off, so it very much is non-optional in the way you move around. It's very nice here. Just to flag as well, there is additional loot in the hangar of the Perseus, but we decided not to go and pick it up because frankly, it's not really worth it. The good loot's all at the end. So there's lots and lots and lots of enemies here. And the good news is there is actually a med bed on the Polaris and it does fully function and there is no med gel. So you can use it an unlimited amount of times. Once we're in the main hangar, we've got even more people to kill. But the process is very similar to before. We need to down all the enemies, find the crypt card, which will appear with a lovely yellow marker when it's all good and ready, and then we will put that into the next slots. Now, if you haven't just skipped ahead because I told you it's the same, you'll be happy to know that actually it's not all the same, because here is where we get our second comp board data scan. As you may recall at the beginning, we had a yellow comp board which had 33% progress. Well, here we need to do that again to get it up to 66% progress. So once again, download the data from our lovely friend over here. He's not looking too good for himself, but you know, bit of a skill issue. For some reason, I was running 2 pulverizers tonight. Do forgive me on that. And we are now looking to head back into the center of the hangar where you will find the yellow server I spoke about earlier. So grab out the comp board you've had in your pockets and go ahead and put that into the machine. Now, a great thing as well is more comp boards spawn in this section. So you absolutely should be picking up any of these that you find because you can be doing the progress in any order. So you don't have to do server 1, then 2, then 3. You just need to do all 3 servers in any order to get the comp board to 100%. So it's really, really important to do that. The last thing we need to do in the Perseus is head to the bridge. And yes, I will give it the wrong name every single time. In the bridge, there's some nice lootables. There's a few pieces of exclusive gear which can be found in this event if you're into that kind of stuff. I personally wanted to do it just because this push is absolutely beautiful. The red corridors, all the smoke, looks really, really good. I know the Polaris doesn't have the best interior when it comes to graphics, but it still looked pretty nice on this occasion. So as you can see, we have a few boxes along the floor. Definitely give them a look, especially the orange ones, and then head out. To head out, you're going to go to the back of the hangar again, take a right, and leave the exact same way you came in. If you need to use the medbed, that is going to be on your left in this current corridor. It's a tier 1 medbed, so all injuries can be solved here. Just to flag here, sometimes your screens will be black in the current patch, which is 4.4.0. If that is the case, all you need to do is quickly get combat logged, go to menus, and then come back in. Unfortunately, it's a client-side bug, not a server-side bug, so you need to mend that on your own. But as I said, it's really easy to mend. Leave the party, get someone to shoot you, you're now combat logged, and then all you need to do is come back into the game. At this stage, we now have 4 of the 5 keys, so it's time to go and get the 5th one. But first, we must get an airlock key. So this is where we'll be taking our ship to a new location. Now, what we're looking for is effectively a contested zone in a slightly different vibe. So it looks exactly like a contested zone. It will be on an asteroid quite near to where you were, but it'll be a separate location. Once you have found that area, go ahead and head to the door. And all you need to do at this stage is just touch the door. Once we get close to the door, a bunch of yellow pings will appear on the screen, and there they are. What we need to do now is find the airlock access card. And in order to do so, we have 3 locations to go and check. At this stage, get to your ship and let's start searching these areas. Just to flag, the Vanduul most of the time do spawn here, so be careful. So when I mean searching the areas, what we need to do is go around, get close to every single body in the ship, and if it's the one we're looking for, it will appear in yellow again to pick up the keycard. If you're not too skilled with EVA, I'd recommend extreme caution here because slamming into these textures can make you fall through the map. So just take it nice and slow, and if you're in a big group like we were tonight, get someone who's a bit more skilled in the area to do so. As you can see, the new EVA drifting is very fun. Well, I say new, it's been in the game for a while. It's very fun, but can also be a bit of a nightmare. And look at these two dancing away. Oh no. Another thing to flag is in these locations, you can also find fairly decent components for size 1 ships, so it can be worth looking for them. In this next room, I find a component. It wasn't very good, but it's still sometimes nice to take them. You've made all the effort to come this far. Why not just grab it while you're here? And this is why I'd always say definitely do not do this mission in any form of small ship. You want to make sure you can fit some components in. And also, you need a ship that is able to defend yourself from the Vanduul fighters, which are incredibly, incredibly powerful. So make sure you're in something that can put up a bit of a fight. And if you're doing this solo, I mean, best of luck, really. I think you need probably a stealth ship or, once again, a solo Idris, because your shields will never go down when the Vanduul attack you, and PDCs are still OP. So once we've loaded the world's slowest component onto the ship, we're going to get back in and head to the next sites. So the location is always random for these, which is quite nice. But as you can see in this location, we only had to go to 2, and we have the body right here. This is where we had a real funny one with trying to get the loot button. Once again, just come slightly further away from the body, and then you'll see the loot markers all the way down the bottom. I somewhat suspect this body either moved after it had been spawned, or not entirely sure what happened there. But we now have the airlock access card. Now we need to push back to the contested zone looking rock, which we can see we're doing here, and go inside this airlock. Now this is where you can probably get some of the nicest screenshots in the game. There's some really beautiful stuff in here, which I'll show you in a second. Make sure you also get out the right keycard, because right now in your backpack you should have a decrypt keycard and an airlock access keycard. As you can see there, I picked up the wrong one. Do not immediately drag the airlock keycard to your hand. Make sure you clear your hand manually and then put the next one in. So once we insert this, the door will come open, get everyone to EVA inside, and then cycle the airlock. Once this airlock cycles, you will see these 2 absolutely awesome looking Vanduul boarding ship pods. Let's go ahead and call them that. Lovely screenshots can be had here. Definitely recommend spending a bit of time with your group. Get a good photo in there. Get people walking out of it. Looks really, really cool. But then again, I love a screenshot. I digress. We need to push in. All we have to do is head all the way down this corridor, exactly like we were doing before. And in this room, we are looking for a laptop. When this functions properly, we will find our laptop somewhere in this room. These Vanduul parts can be fairly valuable. There is a mission to hand these in, so I definitely would recommend picking them up. I also somewhat suspect they will be Wicklow components in the very near future, so it's definitely good to loot all the Vanduul bodies on the floor, pick up their knives, pick up the metal especially, as that's currently a mission. And once you've finished doing that, we are going to begin our hunt for a laptop. This is where the mission tends to fail the most, but you can still continue if you cannot find it. There are ways to get around some of the problems, which I'll highlight shortly. To find the laptop, we just have to look around. It can spawn in a few different locations, being the bar, the workshop, or the security room, but frankly, it could spawn pretty much anywhere in here. This flame should be repaired, but you can actually just run through, take the 25, take the 50% damage, and then repair up. But if you have a repair tool to hand, you can also amend that. And you can always find a repair tool inside the initial security room. So now running around, we're just going to go ahead and look for this laptop. Spoiler alert, unfortunately, this run, it's not going to spawn in, but it's not the end of the world. In the event you can't get one of the decrypt key cards for whatever reason, there's 2 things to consider. The first of all is the main mission will be impossible to complete. So this means the 1 million payout will not be possible. However, you can still get into the final loot room, which is kind of what you want to be doing this for. The loot in that room is worth far more than 1 million credits, so definitely still continue. It's definitely nothing is lost. As long as you have the yellow comp board and you've got 3 scans on it, you are very much good to go. So having a look in the cook room, you'll see there's absolutely nothing here. These elevators are always good for spawning boxes, so always good to have a little look around. To be honest, these places are just a looter's paradise, so it's definitely worth having a good scan around. Personally, I'd rather just push on with missions, but I know some people do like the new gear. Take the hit from the flame again, and then we're going to be heading through this sort of half-open door. And in this half-open door, we're going to come to a security room. Now, if you found the laptop, there will be an email on it. It will be the bottom email, and you can type in the code from that email into this pad here. If you do not have it and you have legitimately looked, I personally don't believe there is any problem with jumping through that door via means which I'm sure we can all work out. If people disagree with that, do let me know down in the comments. But I really do think that's absolutely fine. You can also find an additional fuse in here. Now, these fuses are used to get into a room in this area, which the laptop can spawn in. One of my mates here checked that room already, and it had not spawned in there. If the laptop hasn't spawned, this part of the mission does not fully work, but it's not the end of the world. If the laptop doesn't spawn, no one will spawn to the right-hand side of this server, as you can see up on the wall here. Now, this is where you would find the final decrypt keycard. Because the laptop didn't spawn, that hasn't spawned either, but it does not matter. That's not what we're really here for. Grab your yellow comp board and chuck it into this server. This will be the last scan you need to do, at which point this is fully ready and primed to push into the workshop, which we'll go to later. Once that's all good to go, make your way out the exact same way that you came in. So just retrace your steps, go back to the main mission location, and get back inside. It's as simple as that. Once we're inside here, we're going to be going back to the security room to hand in decrypt cards. Now, of course, if you weren't able to get the final decrypt card, this bit is finally pointless, but I want to show you anyway, just to make it really clear that you cannot carry these cards over to other missions. We're going to put our mobiGlas data in, and at this stage we will see that keycard 4 is actually being shown as fully functional, which is fine because we picked it up earlier, but keycard 5 actually has an error next to it, so it's not even going to accept the fact that we could use another keycard. It simply does not work. If there is a bug, it breaks the entire mission and you cannot get that payout. This does not matter though, we are not here for that. We're going to head to the warehouse and we're going to hand in our yellow comp board card. Now this is the elevator, which I stressed earlier, everyone has to get into at the same time. You only get one chance to get in this elevator. You could technically send it back, but hey, look, I think risk it, get everyone in. Chuck your comp board into the top there and trigger the panel, and this will call the elevator. This door will not close automatically, so you have plenty of time to get everyone in nice and slowly. Slow walking always wins the race. And press the door, and we're in, folks. At this stage, you just need to loot. Just get absolutely everything you can onto the pad, and you are good to go. There are absolutely loads of these Vanduul boxes. As I said, they're very, very valuable once you get 15 of them, so definitely do that. As you can see, we've got everything stocked up, and we're absolutely ready to send this down. Now, at this stage, I want to flag the best ways to get this equipment home. You basically have two choices. Either A, you spawn a larger ship outside and track the gear out, which I'll show you here. This is not the best way, to be really clear. Or B, which is the better way, get a medium-sized ship, put all the equipment into that, and then fly that ship off to Pyro Gateway. In this situation, I called a Gladius, so we had a medium hangar, because you only get medium hangars here. We then moved all of the gear to the front of the hangar, and then backed our Idris up to the door and tracked it in. This is a really slow and cumbersome method of loading. Sure, it's a bit safer because you then have an Idris outside, but it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. The best thing to do here is just load a C1, fly it out, or just fly it straight to Levski with an escort, and you're absolutely good to go. And that's it really, folks. At that stage, you have completed the event. I really hope you found this helpful. If you did, please consider commenting, subscribing. It genuinely does help, and I'm going to keep trying to push the content going. As I mentioned earlier, I do also have a Ko-fi, so if you want to support me on there, that would be greatly appreciated, and I will see you in the next one.